All right, what's up, everybody? Z Panther here with Yak Attack.
Uh,
We're going to be talking about weather clear in Gen 3 OU. Um, it's a kind of a niche type team style in OU. It's not the most common, but it definitely has a lot of merit if used correctly. And there's a lot of different ways that people use weather in Gen 3. Um, Kind of the main way people use weather. We'll go into Doug Patayazard. This team right here, this is made by Johnny G2. Um, Pretty much, it's Bulky Zap. That's your Spadef wall on this team. You have Houdini Metagross, hopefully to prevent spikes, but you do have a Claydol in the case you don't. Um, Also, just to keep up pressure on stuff like Blissey and Snorlax, which can be kind of a problem for these kind of teams. You have Doug with enough speed to outspeed +1 DD Tar. Um, of course, you have Rest Sap. I like Hidden Power Grass here, just because you don't really have it anywhere else. Even though Suicune handles Swampert pretty well, I just like the extra little bit. And then, of course, your rain, or not rain, your weather clearer on this team is actually Sunny Day Charizard. So once you do get the trap off on Tar, pretty much the main idea of this team is to clear the weather with Charizard, dish out as much damage as possible, and then you just go to Suicune to clean up because now there's no
and
sand.
and Susun can hold off on Sun turns with Calm Mind,
Hmm.
and that way your Surf does more damage after you get rid of the Sun.
Yeah, Suicune doesn't mind the sun as much, just since like it's only going to be like 4 turns anyway. It's just much better to deal with that than to have to deal with sand. Um, but this is a pretty simple kind of standard weather clear. This is probably like amongst the most viable kinds of weather clear, I'd say. Just because it's not all in on weather clear per se, it's more all in on the coon, which is good anyway. Um, but there's also a lot of different other kinds of weather clear. So, for example, um, here, this is a team that was modified. It was originally made by Colin. I used it in my UBL challenge. There used to be a Regirock here. Um, But this team uses rain as its main form of sweeping, as opposed to the last team, which was just using the weather to clear sand. This team
And,
doesn't really worry about removing tar so much, and its main focus is actually Blissey with Beat Up Doug.
and should we go over how beat up works in Gen 3?
Yeah, sure. So Beat Up is it's kind of a weird move. It goes based off your base stat, not your EVs or your actual stat, just the base stat of each Pokemon. So even like Zapdos and whatnot, which aren't really known as physical attackers, Gorobis as well, Ludicolo, base 70 is like still pretty decent when it comes to beat up. I'll include the beat up calculator in the description. It's kind of a weird move, and Dugtrio is the main user of it, but there's stuff like Charizard can run it, and Houndoom, Tech.
Houndoom.
Yeah. Yeah, but the main point of Rain's Spring team is does use beat up Dugtrio to remove Blissey. So you kind of use Zap as a Bliss lure. Um, I mean, if you lure in Celebi, that's just as good because you can also trap it with Dugtrio. That's why you have sub here. So if you're like, say, scaring out a lead Suicune or something, you sub. Even Metagross, a lot of times Metagross will just switch out. They don't want to take that big T-Volt right away. Um, you can get your baton pass into something else. Uh, yeah. There's also this kind of team. This is similar to the Doug's art team. This is my own creation with a very, very unique Executor spread. Um, Pretty much the main thing is just using these five minus Executor as like, just pretend Executor's not here. Those are really the mons you're using anyway. Executor is just kind of a utility mon in a sense. So once you get that trap off on tar, um, you're able to set up the sun. You'll outspeed everything, so you get your choice of sleeping them, booming on them. If they go into mince, you can just ice it. Uh, Typically, I like just booming right away after I remove the sand. Then I can bring in Coon next turn and start setting up.
Yeah, DD Mints and Aerodactyl are usually problems on Sun teams.
Yeah. This one's not so much of a sun team per se. It's kind of like the other one where it just uses sun to clear the weather. A more dedicated sun team. So probably where's yours? Yours is a pretty good one. More dedicated sun teams are like this. Sun is a little harder to abuse than rain since the chlorophyll sweepers just aren't as good, and
Mhm.
grass types just don't have that good coverage. Um, Grass isn't really the best attacking type. Um,
Yeah,
but this team also it uses sub Zap with beat up Doug for Blissey. And the main reason is for Pataya Charizard and Executor. This team
right.
probably doesn't need to remove Blissey as badly since you have the Lax and the Metagross, but Doug is still also really useful for, of course, Tyranitar. So your Doug set was EV to be able to do
It
both.
lose. Yeah, it lose Blissey with max special attack, not modest. With Ice Beam, with a spike down 75% of the time,
Hmm.
and
Um,
also um, Metagross can run Double Edge over Rock Slide. I like doing that,
yeah, yeah,
in my
you could
opinion.
definitely do that. I like a Brick Break there too sometimes, but Double Edge is a good shout for sure.
And Executor can run Psychic over Solar Beam.
Definitely. Um,
Gar.
oh yeah, that's very true. It's very true. That is kind of walled by Gar. My thing with Executor, if you're running Solar Beam, you probably want Ice or Fire.
Yeah,
Um, just because Metagross and Mence also wall you. Gengar is a kind of an issue for this team that I look at it because you can just kind of spam Will-O-Wisp freely.
mhm.
Um, so Psychic's probably the way. I'd probably go Hidden Power Fire with Psychic, actually. Um, but yeah, so this
That
is
sounds good.
a more dedicated Sun team. This is where it's using the Sun Sweepers to sweep in a sense, unlike the last one, which is just using Sun to clear weather.
What do you think
Um,
about Thick Fat on Lax there?
I would definitely
Immunity is
just
usually
run,
better.
yeah, I would definitely just run immunity. Even in like our draft league, I thought about using thick fat lax, but then I was just like, immunity is just so good. Everything likes
It's
running toxic, so
it's run 13% of the time in Advanced OU.
yeah. Oh,
But because
thick fat is?
yeah, just like if you're up against a fire type that has Fire Blast
Hmm.
in this scenario,
I can definitely see like if this was a curse, I could definitely see it. Like I
yeah,
think where is it? On this team, it's stolen from Attack on Samurott. But this is a curse lax, so I think you don't really need to run curse self destruct here. You can run curse rest if you want. So thick fat is probably a little bit better here.
yeah,
Um, but typically, if I'm not running rest lax, I'll always run immunity. Um,
yeah,
just more or less just because, especially without Doug, you don't want to be able to be toxic stalled by Skarmory.
yeah.
Or I said Doug, I meant Mag. That actually reminds me of another kind of team. So these teams are kind of old school. They use both trappers, Mag and Doug Trio. They do that so that they can remove Skarmory, so they don't have to deal with spikes, obviously, and remove T-Tar so that they can remove Sand. And these teams aren't using weather to sweep like the rain and the sun team we showed. It also, like the other two, is just using weather to clear. So like rain dance on Magneton, for example, or sunny day on Doug, because stuff like Suicune, Snorlax, and Heracross really like the sand being gone.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's some other things too, like this runs Blissey with Sing. Um, it's a little more off the cuff kind of rain team. It doesn't really use rain outside of Kingdra, um, but it still has the Doug for trapping tar. This Doug is beat up, but honestly, it's probably just better to be Rock Slide here, since you're not going to be living Blissey Ice Beam with this
Yeah,
set.
and Heracross is good in weather clear because it hates sand with Slackberry, and then it usually runs Swarm so that it can fire off 270 base power Mega Horns.
Hmm. Yeah, Heracross is a really good weather clear abuser. It's up there with like Suicune and Lax. I'd say those are probably the top three. If you're going to use weather clear outside of sweeping, I'd probably do it if you're trying to enable Lax, Suicune, or Heracross specifically. Um, Other than that, I don't think it's really that useful for anyone else or any other mons. I mean, there's probably like a really niche mon that could do really well outside of Sand, but those are the big three that you want to weather clear for.
Yeah,
There's
I agree.
like shit like Blaziken, I guess, and like flail
Yeah,
users, but
yeah, Flail and Reversal is really niche.
yeah, it's super niche. I um Reversal's not really seen because of sand, but it's also not really that common on weather clear either. I mean, you might see reversal Heracross sometimes, but it's just kind of nice to run Rock Slide Megahorn. Heracross just hates being walled by stuff like Gengar and Salamence,
Uh-huh.
so it's just kind of hard to fit reversal.
You can fit HP Ghost too
That is true, yeah.
over
And you
Rock Slide.
could run like HP Ghost reversal, and that pretty much covers all bases. You don't. In that case, I'd probably run Guts, but you don't really want to get status twisted either. So it's kind of like
No.
um, but yeah, this is pretty much the basics of weather clear. Here's a pretty interesting one. This team was passed to me by Disaster Area. It uses kind of a Dougler type of Raikou, and has Hypnogar to take advantage of a Dougler, so you can throw out your Hypnosis. This one uses Cloyster for spikes, of course, and the Rain Sweeper on this team is Kingdra. This one
In Power
also,
Electric, in Power Electric versus Hydro Pump on Kingdra, Hydro Pump is usually or this set has Hydro Pump. You can run Surf and Hydro Pump at the same time, just for different scenarios. But Hidden Power Electric is good for Gyarados
yeah, yeah. So Hidden Power Electric is specifically for Gyarados. Pretty much nothing else. It's
and Team.
Hidden. Yeah, I mean,
You
Mantine
never see Mantine.
2, you never really see, I mean, you don't really see Gara that much either, even though it's OU. Um, so I hate running one move just for pretty niche mons, but
Right.
Gyarados is kind of
Yeah, me too.
a threat, so it's understandable on Rain especially. Um, Kingdra is a pretty good user of Hidden Power Electric. The other ones I'd say are like offensive Suicune or like yeah, that's pretty much it. Those two. I guess Gorbis. I have Gorbis with it here. I think. Oh no, I switched it back. But I had Hidden Power Electric here at one point.
Orbis gets Baton Pass.
Hmm. Gorbis does
Uh,
also get Baton Pass.
so you can lure in Blissey that way.
Hmm.
And then
Um,
Ludicolo, it can run Miracle Seed, Hidden Power Grass
yeah.
to
So
Oko Starmie.
it has. I think was this the team I put it on?
I think it was Riders on the Storm.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we were looking at the calcs earlier before the vid, and I found a use for Miracle Seed. Well, technically, Yak did. I didn't find it, but yeah. So this actually gives you a pretty good roll to Okos Starmie, which is pretty nice because Starmie can be kind of a big hassle for these kind of teams with shit like Thunder Wave and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
it's not a
Or you can run
guarantee.
Leech Seed.
Yeah. You could also definitely run Leech Seed. So I think standard Ludicolo has Leech Seed here over grass and then runs leftovers. And that's more for like dealing with Suicune and stuff like that. This team in particular isn't super Suicune weak since you have the Lax. I probably would put Self Destruct here just in case. Um, because that way you can just pressure Suicune and force it to switch without Self Destruct. It actually kind of 1v1s you. This also uses Beat Up Doug, of course.
I think I had Gengar over one Mon on that one.
Yeah, you had it
Over
over Lugia, I
Ludicolo.
think.
Uh, you were talking about how Metagross likes to boom on this team, so you could switch it into
Hmm.
an anticipated boom on Kingdra.
Yeah, so
And the Gengar
Rain.
said I was. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
what were you saying?
sorry. My bad. You
The
finish.
the Gengar said I was running uses Focus Punch and Explosion with max attack, so it can lure in Blissey and also Tyranitar.
Yeah, which is really
And I think
cool. Um,
the Explosion OKO's Blissey.
oh, it does max attack. Is it? It was lonely, right? Lonely
Uh,
nature.
yeah.
Let's see. We can calc that real fast. Let's see. Gengar offensive. I'll just do 252. Doesn't matter. Let's see. Blissey.
And then
It's still
Lonely.
a roll.
That's
Oh
two.
yeah. You're right. My bad. Oh okay. Yeah. You guarantee Oko. That's pretty nice. Um, so that Gengar is really cool. I don't think that Gar needs Doug as much. Um, because you're kind of luring in the Tar with Focus Punch and luring in the Blissey already. But I mean, Doug is kind of like backup in that case,
Yeah.
so it's not bad. Definitely not bad. Gengar fits pretty well in special offense in general, so it's a great Rain team partner. Um, as you see, it's here on this team. He used to have it here as well.
And it's on
Uh,
New Wave, isn't it?
I believe so. So yes, it is. So there's a few teams to go over that are posted on the forums. This one is by Smurf. He peaked at number one on ladder with it apparently. So and it's kind of along the lines of that Doug Zard team where your weather clear is more geared to help Suicune, but instead of just being weather clear, you actually have a rain sweeper as well. So it's kind of like a combination of the two team styles, where it's using Kingdra to kind of break for Suicune almost.
And I see it has Focus Punch on that team as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely to lure T-Tar. Because this one doesn't. Oh, it does have explosion. Never mind. I was gonna say this one doesn't have explosion, but it does. This is a utility Gar set. I think is this one in the calc? There is a utility. I think it might be different though. It's a little bit different. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty cool Gengar set. This team definitely it's really cool because it uses Offkun with Kingdra. I think offensive Suicune is a really good partner with other offensive waters. So I think the team structure is just really nice. This is definitely something I would run. Um,
Yeah, and Clay it has dual boom with
mhm.
Claydol and Gengar
Yeah, it has dual boom.
to get rid of all the bulky waters.
It has dual boom. The two offensive waters. It's not running beat up Doug, which is a little interesting based off these EVs. Usually, you're trying to run
Yeah,
bulky.
yeah, that does look like the beat up Doug I was using.
Yeah,
So without beat up.
but typically, um, you're gonna see a beat up Doug on this kind of team. Maybe he just
Right.
didn't really like it, or who knows. But this team also has a toxic zap, which is nice. So it's even more pressure versus Blissey. Um, you're not relying so much on trapping it with Doug.
But you don't get Zap Doug with Baton Pass on this team.
Yeah, so it's more of a hard switch type deal, or you toxic and then switch or something along those lines. Um, there is a deep dive on Rain. I'm gonna leave this in the description as well. This is by Sadlicius, pretty well-known Rain user, pretty well known in the community in general.
Yeah.
But this is a really good resource for Rain in particular. Um, goes over like what the roles are for each kind of mon. Gengar's to bait in the special wall, Zap's to bait in the special wall. Um, and it's just pretty good. There's also like example team structures on here, right here, like example lineups of what you can do for Rain. Um, I have not seen Alakazam on a Rain team before, but it's definitely interesting. I'm sure the linear curve can make it work if anyone can.
Yeah.
Um, but
Just
yeah,
talking about Omastar. Omastar with Mystic Water and Hydro Pump can Oko Metagross in rain most of the time, like 95% of the time. Scroll down.
oh,
Yeah.
it's down this way. Oh, it's right here. Yeah.
And it's a good
So,
swiper too.
um, Omastar, yeah, this is a good resource, especially it gives you the reasons why you'd use the different rain sweepers. So, Kingdra's obviously the main guy you're gonna be using. It's the best rain sweeper. Has the best bulk. Um,
I don't recommend injured Pitaya or sub Pitaya just because Tyranitar still switches into it a lot.
yeah. Tyranitar likes to switch into Kingdra just to reset the weather a lot. So it's definitely a good shout. I think three attacks is
Switches
the way
in
to
and
go.
switches. It switches in and then switches out to something else.
Yeah. Um, definitely three attacks or maybe like two attacks with toxic is the way to go. Um,
Yeah, that works.
Ludicolo to me is kind of like the um, if you're gonna run two rain sweepers, it's the one you're gonna run all the time, in my opinion. Uh, like you'd run Ludi with Omastar or Ludi with Kingdra or Ludi with Gorbis. You wouldn't
Right.
typically see like Kingdra plus Gorbis because they kind of fit in a similar way.
I agree.
Um, but
Gorbis
Omastar,
is Gorbis is nice over Omastar. They're both basically the same, but
mhm,
Gorbis isn't weak to, or 4 times weak to Hidden Power Grass, and
yeah,
it isn't weak to Earthquake, and it gets Baton Pass. They have basically the same special attack.
yeah. So I think I may have shown the damage calcs for Gorbis in the past um, versus Metagross, which is a big reason you'd want to use Gorbis in the first place over Kingdra, is because or Omastar as well, is because both of them actually have a chance to Oko Metagross in the rain. Where is it? Oh, yeah, it's Hydro there. Or Surf Hydro Pump. So it's an 81.3% chance to KO. Omastar is basically the exact same. I think his is 81.8 because he's like one base attack higher, base special attack higher. But yeah, that's kind of the main role for them. Omastar has more roll compression. Where is it? Just because it has that rock or normal resist, which is kind of nice, especially since a lot of rain teams don't really like to deal with lax.
Right.
Um, but then again, lax can always carry like earthquake, occasionally stuff like brick break. You don't want to be setting up Rain and Lax's face either and catch a focus punch.
Yeah.
But
Mantine is basically never used anyway.
yeah, Mantine's on here.
I wouldn't use it as a Swift sweeper, definitely not.
Yeah, me neither. I think I guess you technically you can. He puts it on here, but it's not
Mantine
really
might have
worth
a
it.
role on Superman teams.
Yeah, I actually have a Mantine Superman team. I'll send it to you afterwards. Um, but Mantine is it just doesn't hit hard at all. It even says right here it doesn't hit too hard. It like hits like wet paper. Like its special attack I think is only base 70 or base
Yeah.
80, something like that. So it's pretty bad.
We were
Um,
talking about just in general, Pokemon that can set up rain, and like it's got Jolteon and Starmie there.
mhm.
Jolteon, you can have like Thunderbolt, Thunder, Rain Dance, Baton Pass.
Yeah. So I think you have sets right here. Um, this still has Hidden Part Grass, but we were talking about it in T-Bolt's probably just better since you don't want to be relying on Thunder accuracy. Um, Likewise with the Magneton, but
And
uh,
you want Magnet on Magneton.
yeah, you definitely want Magnet on Magneton unless you're running with Claydol. Starmie, Starmie
It sounds good
is
on paper.
yeah. I think Starmie gets like really unique things. Like it can do like skill swap and like steal someone's Swift Swim. It can do skill swap and steal Torrent and then set up Rain. So it can do kind of crazy stuff like that. Of course, it gets Thunder, which is nice. But Starmie is it's not usually seen on Rain teams. Definitely can work.
I could see
It's
a Tyberry on Starmie too.
mhm, definitely.
Uh,
Um, I think if you're gonna run Starmie like this, you're definitely not using it for spin. So
no, no, definitely not.
um, this is probably the coverage you'd go with. Yeah, those three. I can't go wrong with that. Um, you maybe could drop Ice Beam depending on what other teammates you have, but then Suicune's a pretty great rain user in my opinion because it scares out Tyranitar pretty much every time. Um, Obviously Tyranitar is going to want to come back in on the Suicune, but I've used Rain Dance on different sets before. I've used Silac like this before. I've used Sub with Rain Dance. Um, Even Crocoon with Rain Dance. It's not really Crocoon because it doesn't have Sleep Talk anymore because you need that slot for Rain Dance, but similar. Zapdos, of course. Zapdos is really underrated as a weather clearer, in my opinion. Mm. I think it's really good
Uh,
because it's
you can
just
use Thunderbolt over Hidden Power Grass. I think is what we were talking about, or
yeah. I
uh,
would or over Baton Pass either. Um, I think too, Zapdos is probably one of the only mons that can run HP water and like to good effect.
yeah, that
Um,
sounds nice.
I think 'cause it lures in Tar pretty hard and stuff like Claydol sometimes. That like HP water hits pert neutral, but in the rain it's gonna be pretty decent. Like you're never gonna OHKO it, never. But it's probably one of the only users of or viable users of HP water. It's still super niche, and I probably wouldn't recommend it though.
If it got Weather Ball, it would be nice too.
Yeah. Um, Here we're getting into Kingdra and Ludicolo. We already kind of went over them. They're the two main rain sweepers in Gen 3. And then you have stuff like Regice, which fits really well in those kind of structures already. So it's not really you're not really losing out much on just slotting Rain Dance on it. It also gets Thunder, of course.
And it resists fire, or
Hmm.
it doesn't resist fire, but in rain it's neutral to fire.
Yeah, yeah, which is very nice. It also Zapdos and Celebi can sometimes kind of be a little bit of a problem for rain teams at times. So Regice obviously doesn't mind them at all. Vaporeon's here too. Vaporeon is Not really seen that often, but it's definitely a good user. Its special attack's pretty damn high. Its hydro pumps sting a lot. I think it's a pretty good rain user.
Similar to Invert.
Yeah, similar to Emperor in a sense. It doesn't get Endeavor, but it gets the ability to baton pass that. Maybe sub is probably a decent shout here, like Surf substitute.
Mm,
Gorbis is probably my favorite rain sweeper right now. I think you pretty much want to always be running Mystic Water on it though for rain, just since the main reason to use Gorbis is going to be that roll to Oko Metagross.
yeah.
Um, and then there's stuff like Lantern. It's okay. Omastar, likewise with Gorbis. I think Mystic Water is probably the way to go if you're using it in OU. Although in UU it kind of just tears it up without it.
Yeah. I also had a Sun one that we were
Mhm.
looking at.
Let's see. So
It's in the chat.
oh, that's right, that's right. That was your that was sample teams. Sorry, everybody. Oh, that's right. Is it not this one? Oh, here it is. Here it is. It was this one. No, this one. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
this one. Or was it? It was the second one actually, because that's the one to Victory Bell, huh?
That's
Yep.
the team.
Oh, it's a team. Oh, okay, okay. I see. I see. That is a team. So, well, we'll go over just the Sunsweepers. There's not going to be as many like chlorophyll abusers, especially in Gen 3, since most of them are not very good. Um,
Yeah.
the main one you'll see is like Executor. Um, maybe you see like Jumpluff, maybe.
You could
But
see Executor and Shiftry on Dual Boom
yeah, you
Spam.
definitely could. So those two
I mean,
are,
you're not going to, but you could use it.
yeah, it's an option. Sun's a little limited in what it could do. Simply just because there's not something like Scovillain in this gen. I don't know if you knew keep up with Gen 9, but that's a
Yeah,
grass fire
I know what
type.
Scovillain is.
Yeah, so that in Gen 3 would be awesome. I think that would make
Yeah, it would.
Sun infinitely more viable. But there's nothing really like that in Gen 3. So most of your Sun abusers are going to be like Sunny Day Charizard. A lot of your Sun setters are going to be like Doug Trio. It's just like a last move. Um, likewise, Moltres, Morning Sun set is pretty good. Entei a lot of the time doesn't really have anything to slot over its last move, so it can run Sunny Day. Um, of course, Executor, that's kind of the whole idea with it, is to set up Sunny Day. And then there's
Sleep
also,
Powder.
yeah, and Sleep Powder and Boom, those kind of things. Um, Porygon 2 and all that, it's just like they have move slot syndrome where it's like their last move can kind of be whatever you want, so you might as well throw on something like Sunny Day.
And
Um,
Porygon 2 usually has defense EVs.
yeah, yeah, this is this isn't really a set you'd be wanting to run with Porygon 2, but um, yeah, it's
I think
Shiftry is pretty interesting.
Sceptile has Sunny Day, Solar Beam, Overgrow, and you can run Berry. I think that's fringe viable. I mean, it's usually
Yeah,
like a sub Leech Seed set,
yeah, I think
the Leaf Blade.
Sceptile fits pretty well on Weather Clear because it gets stuff like Endeavor. So I think it can definitely fit there. It's probably not going to be the Sunny Day setter itself most of the time in those cases,
Yeah.
but
And since it's not the setter, since there's only 4 turns of Sun, it's going to be really difficult to pull off
mhm,
a substitute plus Solar Beam plus Bear.
yeah. So I think
Same with me.
Yeah, same with Venusaur. Sadly, Venusaur doesn't get chlorophyll this gen. That would be super nice if it did. As far as Sun teams go, the probably the one of the most famous. I know Super Epic Ampharos had a Sun team with Lunatone. I couldn't find the pace for that. Maybe someone will comment it or something. But this is probably one of the most famous Sun teams right here. Zach PZ made it and went 1-0 with it in ADVPL. But it's a little different. What's the main thing about this team is it uses CB Moltres to lure in Dugtrio. Um, and Hidden Power Fighting Choice Band Moltres actually OHKOs T-Tar, which is kind of awesome, but insane. um, this this team doesn't really use Doug. I think it's kind of a cool take on it because Doug can be a little hard to fit on Sun just because it itself isn't really removing stuff that Sun has a hard time with because most of the stuff Doug removes are like steel types, like Jirachi, Metagross. Sun's not really gonna have a hard time with that anyway. Um, and you already have Heracross here, so it's not like you're really worried about Tar. You also have Metagross.
What is Slack Heracross?
Yeah, I think this probably is Select Heracross. I would assume. Yeah.
And we
Um,
were talking about running HP fighting on Doom
yeah. So
for extra turns.
in a similar sense, you can kind of use Houndoom to lower Tyranitar because it's a pretty good T-Tar lure with Choice Band Hidden Power Fighting, and that'll actually fill a slot that Moltres is taking up. Um, maybe for like something like Charizard even. Um,
Yeah, that sounds good.
but yeah, I think Houndoom is a little bit worse at luring Tar just because you also lure in Doug. But at the same time, like Doug is not switching into a choice band hidden power fighting. So either way, I think it's pretty decent. It's a pretty decent shout. This also runs Executor, of course, the best Sun Sweeper. Um, and they give you the option here of Hidden Power Ice or Fire. I tend to lean Hidden Power Ice on Executor since it really likes to lure Salamence pretty hard. He chose not to run Boom here. But also, I think Boom's a pretty good tool that Executor has. It's kind of what makes it pretty decent, in my opinion. I think without Boom, Eggy just would be a lot more inconsistent.
Yeah. Versus Bliss.
Yeah, Boom helps especially with Bliss stuff like that. You can Boom on Zapdos. It lures in Ments really hard, so like on the set that I created, where it's like the really weird EVs, you can actually set up Sunny Day in Mixed Ments' face because Fire Blast will never OHKO, and then you can just kill it with Hidden Power Ice. That's why I'm a mild nature, so I'm still plus special attack just with no investment. And then say they go something else that you're not going to kill with Boom, you just Sleep Powder it, and yada yada. It's more or less just for utility. It's not really going to be sweeping on this kind of team. Um, but yeah, I think
Teammates.
whether. Oh, sorry.
Teammates. I posted, or I can post it again, but I think it's the latest post in the chat of just teammates for sun and rain weather clear.
Let's see. Here, this one.
The one above that.
Oh, here.
No,
Yeah. Oh, it's not this one.
that's a team. Hold on. I thought I pasted it. Hold on.
No worries. I think weather clear is pretty cool. It depends what you're using the weather for. I think that like weather clear for Coon, especially compared to like Lax or Heracross, is probably the most reliable way since Suicune is just really good outside of sand. I mean Snorlax is too, but there's still stuff that handles Snorlax, like Metagross and Skarmory that just Suicune doesn't really worry about at all. Um, so I think that's if you're gonna run weather clear, that's the most viable way to do it. Second, I'd probably say is like rain sweeping. Um, using like Kingdra Ludicolo or Ludicolo Gorbis or Ludicolo Almastar is probably like
Oh, and
this.
we were talking about rain setters, and I was talking about Blastoise, how it gets torrent, and you can run like a sub, or not necessarily sub, but you can run like a hydro pump select torrent set with rain.
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, with Blastoise too, its base speed's not like awful. So you could even run Pataya Berry if you really wanted. I think
Yeah,
what is it?
sounds like a speed run tactic.
Yeah, like I've considered using like 78 speed's really not that bad. If you do like timid, you hit it. Let's see. Yeah, you hit 280 speed. Like that outspeeds modest Moltres. Um, the thing with Blastoise is it's just not gonna hit that hard. You could also do like just enough speed to outspeed Tyranitar if you really want. And then it has basically the same special attack as Swampert, so
Yeah,
it hits pretty decent.
you've been experimenting with Blastoise, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been experimenting with Blastoise, not really on weather, more on like mag offense kind of things. I was just looking for different spinners since a lot of people are now experimenting with other ghosts for Claydol. Um, so I wanted something that's gonna like hit Sableye a lot harder. Um, a spinner that's not really gonna care so much about Mischievous even. Has stuff like Miracle for Thunderbolt or Yawn to force it out. Stuff like that. I think Blastoise has a lot of utility. It also has a lot of roll compression because it's a bulky water that has spin, so it kind of takes up the Claydol spot and a bulky water spot, which is kind of nice. It opens up a team slot and those kind of structures.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, possible rain. So possible rain and sun teammates. I sent you a poke paste.
gotcha.
And I gotta go to the bathroom, so you just carry on for a second.
For sure. So possible rain teammates. Of course, the big one is going to be Dugtrio right here. It's the enabler of weather teams in general. You're going to be using beat up Doug most of the time. Well, pretty much every time, unless it's more of like a weather clear. But if you're running like rain offense, you're going to be running beat up Doug most of the time. Gengar is a really good teammate. It's just really good on special offense in general. Blanks booms that are aimed at your rain sweepers. Is able to lure in Tar and Blissey. Heracross it it really likes abusing Sandless. So if there's no sand, Heracross just kind of goes in. Jirachi as well. Jirachi just fits really well in special spam, kind of like Gengar. It's also a rock resist, which is nice. Jirachi's kind of not really a rock resist in the usual sense because it's not really going to want to be dealing with Tyranitar, but Jirachi also has it's definitely better into like Arrow.
Going back.
Metagross is it's just a really good teammate. It really just facilitates offense really well, especially stuff that doesn't like Blissey or Snorlax.
It
And then
booms on bulky waters.
yeah, and it also booms on opposing bulky waters. Stuff like that, Zapdos, which can kind of be in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, Snorlax is just good outside of weather. Stuff like Lanoon gets like Flail. Um,
Yeah, I was about to say. I swept in UU PBL with sub flail belly drum Lanoon.
yeah, so like with weather clear, stuff like Flail and Reversal is a lot more usable. You don't really see hardly any priority at all in OU, especially. So I think on weather clear, it's sort of viable. I know Belly Drum plus 6 Lanoon Flail actually Oko Skarm. if you're at 1
Yeah.
HP. So uh, Raikou is just really good on the same kind of structures as Gengar and Jirachi, so it's a pretty obvious teammate. Registeel as well, like Metagross. It's kind of like having a second Metagross, but you can actually pump a lot of special defense into it. It obviously doesn't hit as hard, but it's also something that can kind of check lax and Blissey to an extent.
Yeah, some of these mons I just added them because they have a resist to like fire and rain,
hmm I
like
think
Sceptile.
yeah, I think Reggie still fits just because it kind of takes up the Metagross slot, and so like it's helpful versus Lax especially. But Sceptile's cool just because you can do like we were talking about like Endeavor stuff with it outside of Sand. So it's not a bad fit there. Steelix probably not so much since water moves are gonna destroy it in the rain.
Yeah.
But Zangoose too, it's similar to Lanoon and it gets Flail. Does Zangoose also get Reversal, or am I mistaken?
No, it gets reversal in a later gen.
Oh, okay. That's why I was confused. Um, Likewise, a lot of what I said above is going to apply to Sun as well. Gengar is just good fit. Heracross, Metagross. Sun can use
Fire Blast.
Salamence a little bit better. Because a lot of the checks to Sun are going to be like opposing Mixments. Um, Skarmory is ironically good into like Exeggutor that doesn't have Hidden Power Fire.
You can Oko
Um,
Skarmory and Sun with Fire Blast, or
yeah.
even Flamethrower.
Um, yeah, and it just boosts its move, at least one of its moves in Fire Blast, which is nice. Salamence is kind of just splashable on any kind of team, really. Um, I think
Talk about
Snor.
yeah, Snorlax and Suicune. Oh yeah, we talked about how Suicune fits on Sun teams despite like this
Being a water.
it being a water type.
Yeah,
Like how it can just stall out Sun turns. Like it, the weather clear helps Suicune, um, because it likes to be able to calm mind up, and you can just wait until the sun's over to use Surf.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we went over that.
Suicune's just good when the sand's gone. I think a lot of the trend that you guys are gonna see with weather is just a lot of things just hate sand. So when you can remove sand, it just opens up a lot more. Even though like Suicune's a water type, like just removing sand is so valuable. The sun doesn't last forever like sand does. So um, and then the stuff like
Blaziken gets
Blaziken,
reversal and Fire Blast.
I think Blaziken is kind of underrated. It's just a little hard to use. My first
Oh
team that
yeah.
I ever hit 1500 with actually had Blaziken. Um, but I will say it's not for everybody. Uh, I have
Uh,
never tried reversal on it, but when you're using a weather like this, it becomes way more viable for sure.
yeah, you don't even need Hidden Power Ghost. You can just nuke Gengar with Fire Blast.
Yeah, yeah, you can even run like overheat on Blaziken too.
Yeah.
Since its special attack is pretty good, it actually has higher special attack than Charizard, which I think people forget. So it's the strongest fire starter at this point in the game. And I think aside from Moltres, it might be the second strongest special attack fire type. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I think it is. I think only Moltres has higher special attack. I could be wrong on that, but um, Blaziken is pretty good. I definitely another big teammate. I think that it's not shown up here, but it's really good on those teams is Claydol. Um,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot a lot of these things don't like spikes, and they don't like the combination of spikes and sand. So Claydol with Doug Trio and Zapdos is a pretty common trio on weather clear kind of teams. Also like Magneton kind of stuff. We briefly went over like Mag Doug which is kind of all in on the weather clear. But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to add about weather clear or?
There's also a team made by Smurf called Ozymandias that we didn't really want to cover because we didn't really understand it. It
Yeah.
has Tyranitar and Kingdra, and it
Oh,
has Lumberry on Lax in Sand, so it was kind of confusing. But it does have like Gengar and Kingdra
yeah.
and
I'll bring it
Metagross.
up just so they can see it. Um, it's this team right here. You made like a cool little thumbnail for it. But these are the six. Tyranitar seems a little counterintuitive, sort of with Kingdra, but yeah.
Inpert in Rain sounds cool.
Emperor is pretty awesome. I really love I mentioned how I really like offensive Suicune paired with offensive Waters too, but that likewise I think offensive Swampert is really good with other offensive Waters too. So I really like this synergy. I think it's
Yeah.
a lot of teams are gonna have a hard time like fending off one water type, let alone two. So when you can double up like this, I think it's really good.
I think
Uh,
that about covers everything.
yeah, yeah. I'll leave this link in the description as well, just so you guys can check it out. Um, if you guys want to try these teams, I'll leave Zach's team and the other ones as well. But yeah, that's pretty much weather and ADV. Obviously, we weren't going to talk about Sandstorm. That's the other weather, just because. I mean, do we even have to?
This is weather. This is weather clear,
Yeah. Sand isn't really like.
meant
There's
to
no
clear
sand
the sandstorm.
abusers.
Which
Yeah.
is
There's.
it's basically the anti-meta.
Yeah. Exactly. Sand is the meta in this gen, so other weathers in this gen are the kind that you're going to be using for weather clear. I doubt even if you used, I think if you just use Sandstorm when Sand's up, it'd fail probably. So you could even clear it that way. But yeah, uh, thanks for watching, guys. I'll be leaving Yak's channel in the description as well, so go ahead and check his out and subscribe. With that,
Thank
I
you.
will catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.